Welcome to the Super Healthy Human podcast with Dr. Rodger Murphree.
Hi, this is Dr. Rodger Murphree, your fibrodoctor.com, author of Treating and Beating Fibromyalgia and Chronic Fatigue Syndrome, Heart Disease, What Your Doctor Won't Tell You, and Treating and Beating Anxiety and Depression with Orthomolecular Medicine. I'm going to be sharing with you tonight some of the tried and true protocols that I've used over the last 3 decades to help my patients consistently get a good night's sleep, what's known as deep restorative sleep. It doesn't matter what health condition you have. I've learned this over the years that the first thing you've got to do to overcome a chronic health issue, whether that's fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, type 2 diabetes, an autoimmune arthritis disease, whether that's lupus, MS, whatever it is, you got to get healthy. I know that sounds simple. I know it's to say that, but the only way to overcome these symptoms of poor health is to get healthy. And probably the number one, certainly the top 5 things you can do to get healthy and stay healthy is to make sure you're consistently getting enough deep delta wave restorative sleep. This is when your body is actually repairing itself. It's really the most crucial time of the day for your body to be able to heal itself is to be able to get this deep restorative sleep. So I'm going to be sharing with you some protocols that I've developed over the years that, knock on wood, have worked consistently well for my patients, whether that's a fibromyalgia patient or someone dealing with anxiety and depression. But I really believe that deep restorative sleep is the key for really unlocking good health. And a big part of that is, if you think about it, if you're not getting a good night's sleep, you're going to wake up the next day and you're going to feel tired. If you haven't slept well in years, you're going to be consistently suffering from fatigue. The studies show that if you're not getting a good night's sleep on a consistent basis, you increase your risk for several unwanted conditions, including heart disease, Alzheimer's, pre-senile dementia. I'm going to show you where this information is, where you can actually get it. You can print it off if you want to. You can take a screenshot of it, but I'll show you here during this presentation where you can find out more about some of this information I'm sharing with you tonight. But we also know that if you're not getting a good night's sleep, you increase your inflammatory chemicals by 40%. You create a tremendous amount of stress on the body because, again, that deep restorative sleep, that 8 hours, 10 hours, 9 hours, whatever it is, 7 hours, that's when your body really is generating chemicals that you need to be able to deal with on the next day. Also, when you're going into deep restorative sleep, this is when the toxins that are in the brain are filtered out through the glymphatic system, and I'll show you that in a report that I'll show you where to find. But the glymphatic system is what allows us to be able to get these toxins out of the brain. So it's no wonder that if you're not getting good deep restorative sleep and you're not able to get rid of these toxins that are being built up in your brain on a consistent basis, you're at increased risk of senile dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, any of the illnesses out there that are associated with oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is an inflammatory driven process that can create all sorts of problems. But again, if you're not getting a good night's sleep, obviously you're going to be tired the next day. You're going to have more pain, more vulnerable to pain. Your pain threshold goes down. I'll talk about that here in just a minute. You're more likely to have restless leg syndrome. And the question is, which came first, the restless leg syndrome that's keeping you from going back to sleep, or the poor sleep that's creating the restless leg syndrome? Personally, what I have found in working with thousands of patients over the years is that once you start going into deep restorative sleep, restless leg syndrome, or as my mom used to call it, the fidgets, would go away. And that's a lot of times that's due not to a magnesium deficiency. Some people will say you need more potassium, and that sometimes can be the case, and I'll talk about that. But magnesium plays such a crucial role in generating the sleep hormone melatonin, helping relax the nervous system, increasing your production of a amino acid tripeptide called gamma-aminobutyric acid, or GABA. These are things that are needed to allow you to be able to fall asleep and stay asleep, or at least to be able, you're like most people are going to get up in the middle of the night. That's not unusual. Go to the bathroom, but you should be able to go right back to sleep. Now, if you're getting up 2, 3, 4 times a night, that's a whole nother ballgame. Or if you're getting up and you can't go back to sleep, well, we're going to address that, we're here in just a moment. But deep restorative sleep really is the key. For those of you that are challenged with irritable bowel syndrome, where you have problems with bloating, gas, indigestion, loose bowel movements, or constipation on a chronic basis. One of the keys for turning that around is deep restorative sleep. For those of you that are struggling with brain fog, mental clarity issues, deep restorative sleep is the first place you really want to start dealing with, getting that right before you even start taking any nootropics or anything to build brain function. That deep sleep on a consistent basis is crucial for mental clarity. If you're struggling with anxiety or depression, another place really to start is to make sure you're getting that good night's sleep. It's crucial. So I'm going to share with you a little bit of my protocols, and then I'm going to take you to a spot. I think there's a couple of places I want to take you on the website to where you can go and look at this in more detail and see some things I'm going to share with you tonight. One of the things I want to caution those of you that are taking sleep medications. Prescription sleep medications have been shown to increase your risk of death by all causes by up to 500%. Now, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to educate you and encourage you to try to do this in a more natural way than taking prescription medications. Whether that's Ambien, Lunesta, or some of the benzodiazepines, or even some of the older tricyclic antidepressants, Doxepin, Tramadol, Trazodone, Pamelor. These medications, they can help you get to sleep, but some of them are just knocking you out. You don't get into deep delta wave sleep. That's when the body's really repairing itself. You just are knocked out. You wake up the next day and you don't really feel any better. Most people feel a little groggy, maybe a little hungover, and they don't feel refreshed on these medications. Now, for those of you that are taking these medications, don't stop them. You have to work with your practitioner and have he or she work with you to be able to wean off these as you're introducing some more natural approaches. The sleep hormone melatonin is crucial. You got to have enough. I find that most people have enough melatonin, but they have sabotaged it over the years. So the first place we want to start with is making sure you're practicing good sleep hygiene. And that starts first thing in the morning. Ideally, you're getting up same time every day. You don't want to sleep in even on the weekends. If you've missed some sleep, it doesn't matter. You want to be getting up. It's the consistent wake up time that really helps to set the circadian rhythm, your sleep-wake cycle. And if you're sleeping in on the weekends and getting up early during the week and then sleeping in on the weekends, you sabotage this circadian rhythm. So you want to have a goal of to get up within an hour of this same time every day. And once your sleep starts to improve, you're going to see that for most of you, excuse me, it's going to be hard to sleep past that time that you have set up this consistent habitual time you get up. Once you start to see your sleep improve, you'll see that it's just your body starts to regulate itself, and you'll find that it's hard to sleep past 7 a.m. or whatever it is for you. Ideally, you want to be shooting for a minimum of 6 hours, ideally 7 to 9 hours. Teenagers and adolescents need to be getting, up to, 10, 11 hours a night of sleep. But if you're an adult, and I assume that's who's watching this presentation, then ideally you'll be shooting for somewhere around 7 to 9 hours. For some people, 6 hours is all they need. However, if you're dealing with chronic health issues, 6 hours is probably not going to be enough. However, if you're someone who's been struggling for years and your sleep is real haphazard, you're up during the night, you can't go back to sleep for hours on end, 6 hours, consistent 6 hours may be the start of your healing process. So don't get discouraged if you make some changes and you're finally sleeping at least 6 hours. That's better than where you were, okay? Most people are familiar with the sleep hormone melatonin. Maybe you've tried taking melatonin. And for many people, you can take over-the-counter melatonin, and that helps do the trick. But before you do that, let's talk about the sleep hygiene protocol. So sleep hygiene, again, starts first thing in the morning. You want to get up the same time every day, and you want to get in sunlight. So if you can get outside and get in sunlight, fine. If you can't, get in a window to where you're exposed to sunlight for at least half an hour. 20 minutes, 30 minutes is probably plenty. If you're in an environment that's, really cold, somewhere where it's really cold, again, all you got to do is get in a window and experience the sunlight. If you're an individual who's in a climate that you don't have a lot of sunlight during the winter or whenever that is, then you can get these SAD light, these seasonal affective disorder lights, give off the same light pattern that the sun would. And you can get those. They're fairly inexpensive. I'm sure you can find them on Amazon. It's where I send my patients. Just find one that looks affordable, and you want to start using that every day. Again, if you're someone that you just don't have a lot of sunlight to work with, these lights can be very, very helpful. But majority of people, 20, 30 minutes in the sun reading, it's a good time to meditate, pray, whatever, this quiet time, but get some sun exposure first thing in the morning. Part of that is building up your vitamin D. So vitamin D is crucial for helping you to make and utilize melatonin. It's super important for mental clarity issues, for reducing anxiety and depression, which both of those conditions can dramatically sabotage your ability to get a good night's sleep on a consistent basis. So vitamin D is very important. If you're not taking vitamin D3, by the way, that's what you want to be on, I encourage you to do so. We know the studies show that you need to be getting about 4,000 to 5,000 IUs of vitamin D3 a day. Get out in the sun, you can do that. But if you're wearing sunscreen or you don't get out in the sun a lot, then you definitely need to be supplementing with vitamin D3. Vitamin D3 is in the fibro formula for those of you with fibromyalgia that are taking the fibro formula or want to know more about that. The vitamin D3, there's 4,000 IUs in the fibro formula. No need to add additional vitamin D3 if you're taking the full dose of the fibro formula. D3 is really important in a lot of different ways, though, as I mentioned. It helps to reset the circadian rhythm. Many of you have been told your vitamin D levels are normal because you've gone to your doctor and they say everything looks good because it's at 35, 34, 40, whatever. But ideally, you want your vitamin D3 level, vitamin D3, to be above 50. That's what you're looking for. I always encourage my patients to get a copy of your lab work. When you get lab work done, get a copy of it, go through it. If you're working with me in the coaching program, the fibromyalgia coaching program, I spend a couple of modules on this, several videos and handouts about how to interpret your blood work or other labs that I recommend. The reason why you want to look at that is because in conventional medicine, a lot of times it's black and white. There's no gray. But in functional medicine, the way that I practice for the last 30 years, 30 plus years, there's a lot of gray area is if we're looking at functional medicine, we're looking at how well or how poorly your different systems function. So we want your systems to be at optimal levels. That's what we're shooting for. Same thing with your blood work or your lab work. We want you to be at optimal levels. Taking vitamin D3 as an example, you could go to your doctor and they tell you, it's at 31. That's fine. You're good. You're within normal. Well, it goes from 30 to 100. So if you're a 31, you're a D student. Who wants to be a D student? At the minimum, you want to be an A or a B student, right? So you want to get that vitamin D level up higher. And ideally, again, above 50, don't want to get it above 100 because it's a fat soluble vitamin. It's really a hormone, but you store it. So you don't want to get it above 100. And that's why when you get blood work done every year or, once or twice a year, make sure you're checking your vitamin D3 level. I think it's a really important vitamin, but it's a hormone. It's very important that you have those levels up. Talking about blood work, you also want to make sure you don't have any elevated thyroid antibodies, TPO and TGB. If those are elevated, that may be the beginning of a thing called Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And for some of you, and I find in my practice about 70% of my chronically ill patients have some problem with their thyroid that's either not been properly diagnosed because they're not doing thorough blood work or it's not being properly treated. But if you are getting blood work done, get your thyroid antibodies checked because if they're elevated, that could be a beginning of an autoimmune disease called Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And when you're in that disease state, then your thyroid is going back and forth between releasing too much thyroid hormone and too little. And you might be cold one day, hot, cold, going back and forth, might break out sweats, hot flashes at night, but it can interrupt your ability to get a good night's sleep. So you want to know that, and there's things that you can do to take responsibility for that and start to turn that around. I go into detail that in my books. But so you want to get your thyroid checked. You want to get your ferritin level checked. So ferritin is a marker for your iron stores, but if it's elevated, you are at risk of heart attack and stroke because you're at risk of clotting. But you also can have, it also can be a sign of inflammation, and it can create some problems. Now, part of this too, we're talking about iron, is if your iron levels are low. So if you look at your total iron and that is low, or you're someone who has uh, uh, you have anemia, you're at risk of having restless leg syndrome. So one of the ways you want to turn that around is making sure you correct if you do have an iron deficiency. If your calcium level as an adult is at 10.0 or above, the norm is up to 10.3. But for an adult, if your calcium level is above 10.0, even if they tell you it's normal, you want to get a ionized calcium. It's an inexpensive little blood test, and a PTH parathyroid hormone test. It's not as inexpensive to get these two tests, but you want to make sure you don't have a condition called hyperparathyroidism where your body's giving off too much calcium. If you are one of the few people that have this, I mean, I don't see it a lot, but I've seen it over the years, and it oftentimes is what's really causing this individual I'm working with to have problems with poor sleep, muscle cramps, anxiety, depression, these things that go with too much calcium. But the other part of that is if you got too much calcium in your bloodstream, you're going to start causing issues with arteriosclerosis, so plaquing in the arteries, which increases your risk of heart attack and stroke. So you want to know what your calcium level is for sure. So those are just some of the things you can do as far as your blood work. You definitely want to check these. Going back to sleep hygiene, getting up at the same time every day, getting in front of the sun, making sure you're getting plenty of sun every day. And then if you drink coffee, that's fine. Coffee is an antioxidant, so I don't have any problem with that, as long as it's not interfering with your sleep. So you want to have the coffee or your tea, whatever that is. Green tea is really super healthy. I love that. But you don't want to have it in the afternoon. That can really sabotage your sleep. And obviously, if you're having coffee all day, or I hope you're not drinking caffeinated beverages, those are really not good for you in a lot of different ways, increase your risk of bone loss and other things. But you want to really dramatically scale back your caffeine intake if you're having trouble with your sleep. If you want to have it in the morning, fine. But if you're struggling with your sleep, definitely nothing after lunch, and certainly nothing in the evening. As the day goes on, you want to stay hydrated. You want to make sure you're getting plenty of water, giving your body the ability to remove any kind of toxins through the lymphatic system. And so plenty of water. Now, for those of you that are waking up in the middle of the night and have to use the bathroom, you want to dramatically reduce your fluid intake late afternoon, certainly in the early evening, and nothing before bedtime. Ideally, you want to eat a lighter meal in the bedtime. In the early evening. You don't want to eat a big meal and try to go to bed. Your body's going to spend all of its energy breaking down the food and trying to process it instead of healing. So a lighter meal at dinner is ideal, and I would try not to eat anything more than a snack before bedtime. You want to be careful that you don't sabotage your sleep with alcohol, too much alcohol towards bedtime, because that can really cause some problems as well. I'm going to show you again where you can go. You can see some more things about sleep hygiene. As the day progresses, what you want to do is it starts to get nighttime, it starts to get dark. You want to, as you get closer to bedtime, wind down. And that means you want to get off the computer. You want to get off your phone. You want to get off your iPad. As you get closer to bedtime, you want to make sure that you're not doing anything that's going to stimulate you and wake you up. So you don't want to watch. I mean, the worst thing you do is watch the news before you go to bed. All right, it's incredibly stressful and sabotages your ability to get a good night's sleep. So don't do that. But again, you want to really start to wind down in your bedroom. The bedroom is for sleeping and intimacy, and that's it. You should not have a computer in there. You shouldn't have a TV in there. You shouldn't be in bed watching TV. You shouldn't be on your iPad. When you go get in your bed, you want to either be intimate with your partner or you want to go to sleep. If you want to read, that's fine. If you're going to use a screen, if you're going to read on a Kindle or whatever, which is fine, but get a blue screen blocker so it will block the light coming from your screen. What can compromise your body making the sleep hormone melatonin is light. So as it gets darker, your melatonin levels start to go up and your cortisol levels start to go down. Cortisol gives you energy. Melatonin, as that goes gets higher, it makes you drowsy, makes you sleepy. So you want to really reduce light exposure the closer you get to bedtime. So if you're in bed on your Kindle, make sure you got a blue blocking screen. You can get those apps. You can get glasses for that as well. When you are ready for bed, you don't want to have a night light on. You don't want to have any light. And if you're really a struggling insomniac, you probably want to get a sleep mask. A lot of my patients use a sleep mask. My wife uses a sleep mask, but you just put that on and it blocks out all the light. It doesn't take much light whatsoever. A light that's coming from outside, or a light that you have in the bathroom that you can see when you go to the bathroom. If you can see that light, it can suppress your melatonin level. So you really want to reduce your light exposure. Very important. Ideally, you want to you don't want to have fans on. You don't want to have electric blanket on. You don't want to have any electrical devices going, because that too can sabotage your melatonin production. Now, some of you have tried melatonin. Some of you may be taking it right now with mixed results. For the majority of the people, I think they do very well on melatonin if it's the right form of melatonin. I recommend, if you're going to take melatonin, you take sublingual melatonin, where you take it, you put it underneath your tongue and let it dissolve. By doing that, you bypass the gut and the liver. It's absorbed right away and it works right away. So many people with a chronic issue, whether that's insomnia or just poor health, have trouble breaking down the supplements they take, along with even the foods that they take, intake, and getting the nutrients out of that. So don't even let that be a potential problem. Take sublingual melatonin. I typically will have my patients start with 3 milligrams, give it a night or two. If you're not falling asleep within 45 minutes, then increase it to 6. Give it, a couple more nights. Go to 9. You can go up to 12 milligrams. You can go higher. On some of the summits, you may have seen me on the podcast that I've done in the past. You've heard me talking to other people who are sleep experts, and they'll share that, they have some of their patients on 20 milligrams. That's a lot. Sleep hygiene is where you start. And oftentimes, if you do that, you're going to see that taking a modest amount of sublingual melatonin will do the trick. Now, a caveat for those who have fibromyalgia. It's a little bit different. You don't want to start with melatonin if you have fibromyalgia. If you have fibromyalgia, you want to use 5-hydroxytryptophan, which is the breakdown of the amino acid, the essential amino acid, which means you have to get it in your diet. But the essential amino acid tryptophan breaks down into 5-hydroxytryptophan, and when it's combined with the right synergistic vitamins and minerals, it turns into serotonin. Serotonin is the happy hormone. The higher your serotonin level, the higher your pain threshold. The higher your serotonin level, the happier you are, less anxious you are, less likely to have irritable bowel syndrome. You have more serotonin receptors in your intestinal tract than you do in your brain. That's why when you get nervous, you get butterflies in your stomach. So you want to build that serotonin up if you have fibromyalgia, because it will reduce your pain. It will help calm you down. But the big thing for those suffering with pain and poor sleep is that the 5-HTP, 5-hydroxytryptophan, which you can buy right over the counter, it increases your melatonin production by 200%. So if you've got fibromyalgia, I would start with good sleep hygiene, vitamin D levels, everything I've talked about, but I'd also make sure you're taking 5-hydroxytryptophan. With 5-hydroxytryptophan, you take it 30 minutes before bed on an empty stomach, which means an hour and a half after you've eaten, or at least 30 minutes before you eat anything. And you take it with a little bit of juice. The juice causes your body the glucose, the sugar in the juice causes your body to release insulin. And insulin then pulls that 5-HTP across the blood-brain barrier, and then allows it to start to go to work in the brain. Start with 100 milligrams, 30 minutes before bed, with a little bit of juice mixed with water. So you could do, if you're a type 2 diabetic or you're worried about your sugar, you don't want to be drinking a lot of sugar at bedtime, because it can throw off your blood sugar, cause you to wake up in the middle of the night. But if you have fibro, start with an ounce of juice mixed with enough just plain water to be able to take the 5-HTP capsule. Start with 100 milligrams, give it a couple of nights. If you're not falling asleep and staying asleep, go to 200. And if needed, go up to 300. But what you should see, somewhere between 100 milligrams and 300 milligrams, your sleep starts to improve. If needed, that's when you would add the sublingual melatonin. Now, if you don't need the sublingual melatonin, the 5-HTP is doing the trick, great. If you're an individual who's struggling with a lot of anxiety and depression, you might want to experiment with 5-HTP anyway. I'm going to show you where you can go and see a thing called the brain function questionnaire that's in my anxiety and depression book, but I'm going to show you where you can find that to see if maybe you might be low in serotonin. If you have fibro, you're low in serotonin. So you need to be taking the 5-HTP and then add the melatonin. So let's say you take the melatonin, sublingual melatonin, and you're not able to fall asleep. What would you add next? For my patients, if they're not fibro or they don't have a problem with serotonin, I would have them add either GABA, GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid, or L-theanine, or a combination of those two, which a lot of my patients take a product that I developed called Delta Sleep, which is a combination of GABA, L-theanine, ashwagandha, valerian root, and it's very calming, very relaxing. It won't make you feel dopey or hungover the next day, but it will really just calm you down. It's very helpful for people who catch their second wind. If you're one of these folks that are tired all day, and then later in the evening you catch your second wind, or maybe you're just a night owl, you can't wind down. The Delta Sleep is really good, or something similar, is really good at calming everything down and allowing you to wind down and go to bed. For those of you who are like that, the Delta Sleep can be a real godsend. You really ideally want to be in bed asleep before midnight. So if it takes you an hour to wind down, you need to be in bed by 11 so you can wind down. And really, ideally, being asleep by about 11 p.m. at the latest, because when the sun comes up in the morning, that's when your melatonin is the lowest, and that's when your cortisol level goes up. So if you're going to bed at 11 or 12 midnight, it's hard to sleep past 6 or 7, because when the light comes up, again, that light's going to sabotage you and cause your melatonin levels to tank. If you're wearing a sleep mask, you can get around that, okay? But ideally, you want to be getting in bed and falling asleep by 11 p.m. is what I encourage my patients to do. Melatonin and Delta Sleep or GABA, L-theanine work very, very well. If you're someone struggling with fibromyalgia, you have low serotonin, start with the 5-HTP first, then add the melatonin. If you're still not able to wind down and fall asleep, add the Delta Sleep. You can take all 3 of these supplements, and they're available over the counter with prescription sleep medications. And as you start to do better, then you can start to wean off your sleep medications working with your doctor. Now, if you're an individual and you're having trouble waking up and you can't go back to sleep, you may find, again, the 5-HTP and the sublingual melatonin, if you're taking that at bedtime, may help you to get a deeper, a longer sleep if you do that. And instead of waking up at 3, maybe you start waking up at 5 a.m. and you start getting your circadian rhythm to straighten out. However, if you're someone who wakes up at 3 o'clock and you just cannot go back to sleep, if you're one of those individuals, then you can take the Delta Sleep or something similar, again, GABA or L-theanine. I like the blend. They seem to work synergistically. And then the valerian root is very calming. It's a natural muscle relaxer. It works in about 15 minutes. So if you wake up at 3 a.m. and you're really struggling to go back to sleep, Delta Sleep or something similar is ideal, because when you wake up, you want to have a glass of water sitting there so you can take 2 to 6 of those, and then go use the bathroom, whatever you need to do, then get back in bed. Don't be turning on lights to try to find the bottle of pills or your water or whatever. That's really going to be detrimental to the whole goal of getting you back to sleep. But take it, go do your thing, whatever you got to do, use the bathroom, whatever, get back in bed. And typically you'll fall back to sleep pretty quickly. It won't make you feel hungover, dopey, or sleepy, even if you need to wake up in 2.5, 3 hours. If you have a special needs child, an elderly parent, a partner that may need your attention during the night, you'll be able to wake up. It's not like taking a sleeping pill that totally knocks you out and you're doing crazy things in the middle of the night, like Ambien, where you may get up and cook a dinner and you don't even remember eating it, okay? So it's a very safe to take, and you can take it with any kind of prescription sleep medication, no problem. Now, if you're an individual, you're waking up at 3 a.m., the question is, why is that? Different reasons. If you're drinking alcohol in the evening, may be the culprit. If you have a thing called adrenal fatigue, your cortisol, melatonin levels may be sabotaged. Now, it's kind of ironic, but once you start sleeping better, that'll work itself out. But in the beginning, you may find, especially during the day, if you're just exhausted all the time, you may find that you would do better taking an adrenal cortex supplement to help to balance out, to give you more stamina and resistance to stress and having more energy. If you have a lot of anxiety, the 5-HTP could be helpful, or taking L-theanine during the day could be helpful, would be beneficial even for those of you waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, because what's happening is your circadian rhythm is off. The other thing that can sabotage you and cause you to wake up in the middle of the night like that is if you have low blood sugar or hypoglycemia. If you know you're a person, if you skip a meal, you feel terrible, or if you're taking type 2 diabetes medications, or even taking insulin, you may find you're bottoming out during the night. And when that happens, when your blood sugar goes really low, your body releases adrenaline and cortisol to get blood back to your muscles and your brain. So when that blood sugar goes down, you get a spike in these stimulating hormones, and now you're up. So you want to be cognizant of that if that's something's happening, which you may find if you eat a little snack before bedtime. So take your 5-HTP because you want to take it on an empty stomach, wait about 45 minutes, 45 minutes, and maybe eat an apple with a little bit of almond butter or something, a little bit of fat, protein, complex carbohydrate to help to get that blood sugar balanced out and help you to be able to navigate a problem with hypoglycemia. Sometimes that works fantastic. Other times it doesn't. There's things that you can take if you're an individual or you're seeing that is probably an issue for you. There are different products out there, and I'm trying to think of one that I recommend is from Now Foods. Let's see. I want to say blood sugar support, but that's not it. But you'll see that there are some that help low blood sugar, and you can just Google that and see there's things you have some of my patients take at bedtime. I know Now Foods has one. I just cannot think of the label, but you could Google Now Foods and you can find that product. But sometimes that can be very, very, very helpful. Things that sabotage your melatonin levels, non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. So now this is, if you go to, and I'm going to just show you where you can go to your fibro doctor. And if you click up here, patient center, if you click on, if you click on blog, this is a blog. So if you put in sleep, okay, this is going to pull up a bunch of different ones. The one that I'm looking at right now is this one right here. And it goes over the things that we've talked about tonight, gives you the stats and some of the things that I've shared with you. But what I want to show you here, let's see if this is where it's, let's see here. So hopefully you can read this, but again, I want you to be able to navigate the website and find it so you can have it. But so look at the poor sleep's associated with increased risk of heart disease, stroke, heart attacks. It's associated with 141% greater risk of heart disease. Dementia, the risk for dementia was similar. People who reported routinely experience difficulty falling asleep had almost 50% increased risk of dementia. Irritable bowel syndrome, chronic inflammation, which is associated with numerous health problems. We already talked about. If you're not getting deep restorative sleep, you increase your inflammatory chemicals by 40%. Diabetes, including type 3 diabetes, which is Alzheimer's. But diabetes, if you're not getting a good night's sleep, you increase your risk of developing type 2 diabetes by 2.5 times. Quite a risk. Tension headaches, migraine headaches. Obviously, if you're not getting a good night's sleep, you're going to have fatigue, but you don't think as clearly. You increase your risk of restless leg syndrome, anxiety, depression, poor immune function. Increase risk of weight gain because it lowers your metabolism. It can create so much stress that it can affect your thyroid. So if those of you that have a problem with your thyroid, one of the things that may be triggering that or creating that as a chronic issue is poor sleep. Stress is the catalyst for hypothyroidism. So getting a good night's sleep is really important for your thyroid. Autoimmune disorders, whether that's rheumatoid, multiple sclerosis, lupus, you're at risk if you're not getting a good night's sleep. And oxidative stress, weight gain, increased risk of accidents. And you see early death. The list goes on and on. That's why it's just crucial that you get a good night's sleep on a consistent basis. When you're getting that 7 to 9 hours of sleep, it's the body's time to get rid of waste material by the glymphatic system. And your brain literally shrinks as this lymphatic fluid is bathing the brain. and cerebrospinal fluid, and then getting all that waste out so you don't have a buildup of toxic waste material in your cranium and your brain. Increase cellular, mental, and physical energy when you're getting a good night's sleep. Increase metabolism, so you start to burn calories more effectively. That translates not only to having more energy mentally and physically, but also helps you to be able to lose weight if that's something you need to do. It helps the nerve cells with communication, helps the brain function. It's crucial for mental clarity. This is when the body's repairing itself, the cells, the bones, the muscles, tendons, the ligaments, all those bodily parts need a good night's sleep. This is the Delta sleep formula that I developed, and these are the things in it. You can read this, but this is what I recommend to my patients. And you can go to Patient Center, and you can go to health conditions, and you can come down here and you can go to sleep disorders. Let's see if I've got things in here. Yeah, there it is right there. So what causes a decrease in melatonin levels? Well, exposure to bright lights, and it really don't have to be a bright light. I mean, it can be a little bitty night light that can sabotage your melatonin. Exposure to electromagnetic fields. I didn't go into much detail about this, but I've had patients that have dramatically improved their sleep when they turn their Wi-Fi system off and turn off everything they can in the house so there's no electromagnetic field from the AC currents. Definitely in your bedroom, you don't want you don't want ceiling fans. You don't want, if you can do it, you don't want to have sound machines. You certainly don't want to have electric blankets, anything. You don't have the TV on, radio on, any of that kind of stuff. You want to get the computer. If you have a computer in your bedroom and that's the only place it can be, maybe you're in a small apartment, turn it off. Get your electronics turned off and out of the bedroom. Get them out of your bedroom. Your phone shouldn't be in the bedroom. If you need to keep it on for emergencies, in case somebody needs to contact you, get it as far away from you as you can. Here's the other things: selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. So if you're taking an antidepressant, that can sabotage your melatonin level. Already mentioned NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, anxiety medications, benzodiazepines, which is kind of ironic because a lot of people are told, oh yeah, get on Klonopin or Valium or Xanax to help you be able to fall asleep and be able to stay asleep. But by doing so, you can within 2 weeks become dependent on those medications, and they have all sorts of potential side effects. Look it up. I'll show you where you can learn more about that. But you want to definitely, if you don't have to take benzodiazepines, work with your doctor, work with your healthcare professional and get off those. Obviously, caffeine can sabotage your melatonin, alcohol, tobacco. Don't exercise 3 hours before bed. You want to be winding down. You don't be ramping everything up, increasing norepinephrine level, adrenaline, and cortisol. So you want to really, if you're going to exercise in the evening, make sure you got plenty of time to wind down. If you're suffering from low moods, then taking 5-hydroxytryptophan or whatever you need to get out of that condition. I'll show you the brain function questionnaire here in just a minute. Foods high in melatonin. Well, you know about turkey, right? Turkey has a lot of tryptophan in it. Tryptophan, as I mentioned earlier, is an amino acid. There's 20 different amino acids. You should be getting them when you eat a protein food. These amino acids are the building blocks of a protein. Anytime you eat protein, you're getting amino acids. There are essential amino acids you have to get in your diet because your body can't make it. One of those is tryptophan, and tryptophan increases the production of melatonin. But rather than taking tryptophan, I recommend you take 5-hydroxytryptophan, 5-HTP, and I talked about that earlier, okay? The reason why I say that, because some people cannot convert tryptophan into 5-hydroxytryptophan. Foods high in melatonin: oats, sweet corn, rice, Japanese radish, tomatoes, barley, and bananas. Now, if you've got restless leg syndrome, I would start with magnesium, which also is really helpful to get a good night's sleep. So if you're not taking any magnesium, I highly recommend you start taking 400 to 500 milligrams a day. If you're taking the fibro formula, you're probably getting enough magnesium, but you might want to experiment with taking an additional 150, 200 milligrams of magnesium glycinate, chelate, or citrate at bedtime. It's very calming and it helps the nervous system calm down and helps with the production of gamma-aminobutyric acid, which is very, very calming. That's why it's in the Delta sleep formula. But magnesium can be very, very helpful as well. But if you're having restless leg syndrome, and typically if you start taking magnesium, that will do it. If it doesn't, then experiment with getting more potassium. I don't recommend bananas because it's high sugar content. I recommend avocados. Avocado has much more magnesium has much more potassium than bananas, and bananas have a lot of sugar. Drugs that raise melatonin levels, so an antidepressant, Luvox, some of the older MAOs, and then St. John's wort. But this is there at under the blog section. No, I'm sorry. This is under the, let me go back and show you where you find this. This is in the patient center. So if you go there, you'll see health conditions articles and you can go to sleep. Now, mention brain function questionnaire, and this is where you can take this. There's a little video I share what all this means, but you can take this to see, are you low in serotonin? And if you are, then you definitely want to be taking 5-HTP. It tells you how to take it. If you have a lot of anxiety, then you're probably going to be a G, which is right here. And then you can take the GABA plus. There's some, you can read the ingredients, you take something similar. But that's the brain function questionnaire. And then if you want to know more about anxiety and depression, because I've mentioned that, you can come right here and you can read about anxiety and depression right there. Okay. So these are some places you can go that will help you. And I'll try to post this, probably not tonight, but I'll post this if you're on my Facebook, yourfibrodoctor.com. You can go there. It's a page. It's free. A lot of resources there, along with the website, yourfibrodoctor.com. I'll try to post that on the Facebook page as well, so you can see some of the things that I've talked about tonight. So I've shared with you some of the real basic protocols, but if you'll do even these basic protocols, you'll see that the majority of you are going to see benefit pretty quickly in your ability to be able to get a good night's sleep and sleep through the night. Okay. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate the opportunity to share this information with you. Again, there's a lot of free resources at yourfibrodoctor.com. You can go to the blog, you can go to the patient center. You can see there are all kind of free videos and reports and things that you can do to help yourself. That's what my goal is to empower you to be able to take responsibility for your health, get some answers maybe that you hadn't been able to, and do it preferably without taking prescription medications, which, as I shared earlier, increase your risk of death by 500%. Is there a certain blood panel should request? Well, I think, the basic time you get blood work done, you need to get complete blood count, need to get a liver panel, CBC, liver panel, A1C level to see if you elevated blood sugar, which also can affect your sleep in a negative way. C-reactive protein, I would get a thyroid panel with TSH, free and total T3, T4, T3 uptake, reverse T3, thyroid antibodies. So these at ferritin level, I'd get a ferritin level. So these are some of the blood work that I normally do on my patients. And I think there's some material on the site as well where you can look through and see what's some of the blood work I recommend. I go into much more detail in my Fibro Rescue Coaching Program, which is a do-it-yourself home study course with me supplying all the videos and reports and handouts, helping you to be able to go get blood work and be able to interpret it. You can go get blood work without a prescription. And I share with you in the program how to do that at a discount, a dramatically discounted way to do it. It's affordable, very affordable without a prescription. And then you can take that blood work and then using the guides that I have in the coaching program, you can interpret it and make the changes that you need to. So it's all there on the website. So please take advantage of it. It's all free.
Thanks for listening to Super Healthy Human with Dr. Rodger Murphree. Remember, your body is designed to heal. It just needs the right tools. Stay curious. Stay consistent. Stay super healthy. If this episode helped you, leave a review or share it with someone who's ready to take charge of their health. The information provided in this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not replace professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your physician before making changes to your health regimen. This content does not substitute medical care.